fluid coding, and AI here. Microsoft Agent Framework 1.0 is the moment AutoGen stops looking like a research playground and starts looking like Microsoft's production agent foundation. The question is not, can it make an agent chat with a model? The question is whether it gives developers enough control, durability, and governance to ship agent systems without building all the boring infrastructure themselves. On April 3, 2026, Microsoft announced Agent Framework 1.0 for both .NET and Python. Microsoft's claim is specific: stable APIs, long-term support commitments, enterprise multi-agent orchestration, multi-provider model support, and cross-runtime interoperability. That matters because Agent Framework is not being positioned as a side experiment. Microsoft Learn calls it the direct successor to both Semantic Kernel and AutoGen, built by the same teams. AutoGen proved that multi-agent orchestration could be exciting. Group chats, event-driven teams, tool use, specialist agents, and research prototypes all felt like a glimpse of where software agents were going. But production teams usually need more than a clever conversation loop. They need repeatable workflows, approval points, restartability, tracing, policy controls, and a way to connect the agent to real systems without turning the codebase into glue. Semantic Kernel had almost the opposite reputation. It was closer to Microsoft's enterprise world, with connectors, planners, and integration patterns that felt more deployable, but less like the wild multi-agent experimentation AutoGen made popular. Agent Framework is Microsoft's attempt to merge those two instincts, AutoGen's orchestration ideas and Semantic Kernel's enterprise foundation, into one open-source SDK for .NET and Python developers. The core split is simple. Agents are the model-backed pieces. They take input, follow instructions, call tools, use model clients, and return results. Workflows are where the production story gets more interesting. They connect agents and functions into controlled graphs, with type routing, conditional edges, parallel steps, checkpointing, request and response flows, and human-in-the-loop support. That is the important shift. Agents reason dynamically. Workflows decide where control is allowed to go. The quick start is intentionally small. Install the package, create a chat client, wrap it as an agent, give it instructions, and run it. That is useful, but it is not why this release matters. The hard part is everything after Hello World: sessions for state, context providers for memory, tools and MCP servers, middleware for cross-cutting policy, and observability so failures are diagnosable instead of mysterious. The most production-shaped features are the boring ones, and that is a compliment. Middleware gives teams places to add logging, compliance checks, safety filters, caching, retries, and policy gates. Workflow checkpointing lets a system pause, persist state, and resume instead of losing the whole run. Human approval flows let an agent stop before a sensitive action and wait for a response. That is the line between a demo agent and a system you can trust with real work. Agent Framework is not only an Azure OpenAI wrapper. The research lists integrations across Microsoft Foundry, Azure OpenAI, Anthropic, Amazon Bedrock, Google Gemini, Allama OpenAPI, MCP, A2A, AGUI, Copilot Kit, ChatKit, Microsoft 365 Paths, vector stores, and retrieval systems. The honest caveat is that support can vary by language, package, provider, and preview status. Azure and Foundry are still the deepest managed production path. If you already know AutoGen, some concepts carry over. Agents wrap model clients, receive instructions, attach tools, stream tokens, support multimodal content, and use async 1.0. But serious migration is not just a rename. AutoGen's team model is event-driven. Agent Framework pushes multi-step systems toward typed graph and data flow workflows. Single-agent code may feel familiar. Complex multi-agent systems may need a real redesign. There are also smaller migration details that matter in code. AutoGen uses function tool. Agent Framework uses a tool decorator with schema inference and adds hosted tools like Code Interpreter and Web Search where the provider supports them. AutoGen's assistant agent can be effectively single-turn unless tool iterations are configured. Agent Framework's agent is designed to keep iterating through tool calls by default until it has a result. Those defaults change how agent loops behave. The benchmark story is credible, but it needs careful framing. The strongest first-party evidence is for Magentic-One, a Microsoft Research multi-agent orchestration pattern that now appears in Agent Framework's orchestration story. In 2024, Magentic-One on AutoGen 0.4 reported 32.3% on GAIA, 11% exact match on Assistant Bench, and 32.8% on Web Arena using GPT-4o. That shows the research pattern had real task completion traction. Here is the caveat: those results are not a fresh Agent Framework 1.0 benchmark. The runs happened in 2024 on AutoGen 0.4. The O1 preview configuration improved some scores, but Web Arena was not reported for that mix because O1 refused a meaningful share of tasks in specific Web Arena categories. So the fair claim is narrow. Microsoft had strong orchestration research, and Agent Framework is productizing those ideas. It is not proof that 1.0 beats every current agent framework. The biggest mistake would be treating every nearby feature as production-ready just because the core framework hit 1.0. DevUI, hosted Foundry agent integration, Foundry tools and memory, evaluations, AGUI adapters, Copilot Kit, ChatKit, skills, GitHub Copilot SDK harnessing, Claude Code SDK harnessing, and lab modules are all areas the research flags as preview, evolving, experimental, or package-specific. Use the 1.0 label for the stable core, not for the whole ecosystem around it. If your team is building in .NET or Python, already uses Azure or Microsoft Foundry, and wants agents that can survive approvals, retries, traces, and restarts, Agent Framework should go on your test list. If your current AutoGen project depends heavily on custom event runtimes or experimental distributed behavior, migrate carefully. And if you are outside the Microsoft stack, the framework is still worth watching because it shows what production agent infrastructure is starting to standardize around. My verdict is this: Agent Framework 1.0 is not Microsoft inventing agents again. It is Microsoft turning AutoGen's research patterns into a supported SDK with the governance, workflow control, and durability production teams kept asking for. That does not make migration automatic, and it does not make every preview adapter production grade, but it does make Agent Framework the clearest Microsoft-backed path for serious pro-code agent systems right now. If this helped you understand where Microsoft's agent stack is heading, like the video and subscribe to Fluid Coding and AI. I cover the tools, frameworks, and engineering trade-offs that decide whether AI systems stay demos or become real software.